I'd caught my wave, and the first real giant set, or probably the peak of the set, came through at that time, and it was massive. As I'm dropping down the face of it, there's this big chunk like a boulder sticking out of it, and as I'm coming down, I'm thinking, I can go inside it or I can go around it, and as I've thought that, I've hit it, and I've fallen on the face.
Wow.
And I've just clawed in, and everything just went quiet and still. And then all of a sudden, just all hell broke loose. I was getting ragdolled like King Kong had me in his hand, thrashing me around.
That's Cheyne Horan. I'm Jamie Brisick. You're listening to Soundings, brought to you by the Surfer's Journal. The Journal is a member-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Outerknown, Patagonia, Rainbow Sandals, Vans, and Yeti. More like a book than a magazine, the Journal delivers 136 pages of independent storytelling every 8 weeks, covering the people, culture, travel, and art of surfing. To learn more and to subscribe, please visit surfersjournal.com. This episode of Soundings is presented by Costa Sunglasses. If you're anything like me and you spend lots of time around the water, then you know just how important it is to have a good pair of shades. And since 1983, when a group of intrepid outdoorsmen set out to make sunglasses that could stand up to the harsh environments they regularly encountered, Costa remains the choice in eyewear among those committed to life on the water. So whether you're diving in, climbing aboard, suiting up, sliding one, leaning back, or all the above, head to costadelmar.com to grab your pair and to see what's out there. Born in 1960 in Sydney, Australia, Cheyne Horan was a pro surfer in the late 1970s and 80s. Finishing second in the world 4 times in 1978, 79, 81, and 82. Cheyne was by no means your average pro surfer. Hailing from Bondi Beach, he joined the world tour in 1977 at the age of 16 and swiftly became a surfing superstar. I first became aware of him in the early 1980s via surf mags and films, and I confess to being a full-blown Cheyne Horan fanboy. He surfed with an urgency and potency, weaving in and around the pocket on his needle-nose, fat-tailed Lazor Zap single fins. His boards had vibrant, elaborate airsprays. His wetsuits were bright and loud. His hair was peroxide blonde. He had a movie star smile. Cheyne surprised and subverted. He became a macrobiotic vegetarian, a yogi, a devotee of astrology and the I Ching. He advocated for solar energy. During the South African leg of the tour, in the bad days of apartheid, he had Free Mandela spray-painted in big letters on his board. He was outwardly pro-weed and pro-psychedelics back when that could land you in jail. I took great pleasure in watching him win the 1989 Billabong Pro at Sunset Beach, earning him a hefty $50,000. Cheyne retired from the pro tour in 1993. Soon after, he began to focus on big waves, riding giant Waimea Bay, outer log cabins, and jaws. In 1999, he won the Quiksilver Masters World Championships, which to me felt like poetic justice to an epic career marked with so many runner-ups. Today, Cheyne shapes boards and runs a surf school in Queensland, Australia. We spoke in San Clemente, at the home of Cheyne's friend, Jeff Werve, who generously lent us his living room. Cheyne was in Southern California on a board-shaping mission. There was foam dust in his pores and that same Grom stoke that I saw in his eyes over 40 years ago. Cheyne, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jamie. It's good to be here, mate. All the way over here in California.
Yes. So what brings you to San Clemente?
I'm over here shaping. I'm surfing, skateboarding, and just having a good time.
Skateboarding. I love that you're skateboarding still.
Yeah, I always keep a hand in skateboard. We skateboard out the front here like almost daily.
Wow. Before you were a pro surfer, you were a skater and you rode for Coca-Cola or Pepsi, I want to say?
Yeah, my first skateboard I made was off a paling off the back fence of my house. and I was about, I don't know, I think I was about 8 years old, and I broke a pair of skates, like roller skates, pulled them apart, and put one on the front and one on the back.
Wow.
That's where it all started.
Incredible. So you grew up in, I want to say Bronte, but you were part of the Bondi board riders at the time.
Yeah.
And you turned pro at age 16 in 1977.
Yeah.
What was it like jumping onto the tour at that age and that time as well?
Well, the way that it all sort of turned around is I was still at school, but I hadn't been going to school. Like all the way through school, I'd go and mark my name off and go surfing. So my school was going surfing.
Okay.
But I remember getting the entry to the stubbies, the man on man, and I just started the year, and my mum had bought all my clothes and stuff, and we were a working class family, and I just said, Mum, I want to have a go at this. And she just went, I said, look, I'll take the year off, and then if I don't do any good, I'll come back at it next year. And she just went, you're never going back to school.
Wow.
And I just went, so it all started there, went to the stubbies and then kicked off. And then the tour, we went right through the Australian tour, and I was like 4th or 5th in the world. And I went to Randy. I wanted to go on the tour. I was 16.
Randy
Rarick, and he goes, oh, you're too young to go on the tour. You can do your local derbies, but you can't go on tour. There was no rule for it.
Right.
I could have gone on tour that year.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, I think I finished 27th after having just from my points that I had at the start.
Okay. And that year you joined the Bronze Aussies with Ian Cairns and Peter Townend, as I remember.
That was the next year.
Okay. What was that like?
Look, PT was the main part of that, in that the idea of it all, and it was the first surf team, and it was about getting a brand with surfers where surfers actually get the benefits of it. So they created the brand, the Bronze Aussies, and a surf team that as long as one of us did well, the name was always in the spotlight.
Yep.
So that was the idea. But what happened in that was that inside the Bronze Aussies, we were having problems. Like Jim and I, we just didn't get on.
Okay, Jim Banks.
Jim Banks and I, we just didn't get on.
Okay.
At the start, and I said this to PT a little while ago, I said, mate, had you got Tom Carroll? And he said, we asked Tom. And I said, well, if I asked Tom, he probably would have come, because we were good mates.
Yep.
And so that friction sort of split. That was the reason, really one of the major reasons why I left the Bronze Aussies.
Okay.
Because they kept pitting me with him.
Yep.
But also the surf media was really down on the Bronze Aussies, the reason they were down on it is because the surf companies made a half a joke of it to the media, but the surf companies were scared because if the Bronze Aussies took right off, then the surf companies would have had to pay the surfers correctly.
Interesting.
Instead of paying them peanuts.
Uh-huh. But just so I understand, the Bronze Aussies was basically a group of professional surfers, but it wasn't, was there a clothing label attached?
It was on the way.
I see.
So
it's more like starting in reverse.
It was promoting a brand.
Yeah, gosh.
Waiting for a clothing company to come along and say, we'll do your brand.
Yes.
Or we'll do your boards, or we'll promote you with this whatever, like the major companies like Johnson & Johnson or whatever.
Yep. But it was sort of taking the capital of these 4 great surfers on the world tour and recognizing the power of that, and then follow with the stuff.
Yes.
Follow with the goods.
And it was a great idea, and it would have worked.
Yeah.
Had we kept together, it would have worked.
Yeah.
But but I actually asked for these things. I said, man, you got to, at home, I can stay in my own room at home. I feel better at home than I do with staying with Jim in the hotel room all the time.
Right.
And they just didn't listen, where they could have their own rooms.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't put up with it.
Yep. So 1978, 17 years old, you win your first pro event, the Waimea 5000 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Yeah.
What was that? I mean,
so I'm getting goosebumps when you say that.
But you know what's great, Cheyne, is you and I have been in Brazil many times together.
Yeah.
I've seen you tearing apart the waves of Barra da Tijuca, et cetera, et cetera. So thinking about what that would have been like, and thinking of the spirit of Brazil in the late 70s, I mean, tell me, Bring us there if you can.
It was like a party atmosphere. It was like carnival every day. And, you know, chicks everywhere and they're just loving the blonde haired gringo. And, you know, I fell in love over there. It was just like, it was mad. And the what I noticed about the spirit of the place was everybody loves each other. There's so much love there.
Yeah.
You know, everything was hugging and kissing each other, just smiling, healthy people, just living on the beach, drinking coconuts, having brown rice and vegetables and salad, which was right up my alley.
Yeah.
And the contest was really funny. It was moving around all around Rio. And we had flat days. And one day I went to go out in the heat. It was that small. I said to PT, I'm going out without a fin. And I was just going to do spinners, right? And he goes, don't you dare, right? And I went, all right, okay. Well, I want to ride your board then. Because he had a big boat.
Okay.
Right? And I think I might have ridden his board in that heat, right? Because it was flat, right? So we were scratching through heats. And finally, I get through to like the semi-finals and I'm surfing against Critter.
Okay.
Right?
Critter Burn. Yep.
And the crowd's really on my side. And Critter hassled me in the water, just like a normal hassle that we normally have. Since we were 13, 14-year-old, Critter and I have been hassling each other in the water, but we love each other out of the water.
Sure.
So we're hassling each other, and I'm hassling him as much as he's hassling me. He comes in, they start throwing rocks and sand and bottles at him, screaming at him and cheering for me. And we got security around us now. We're two young kids just come from Australia.
Yeah.
He's the same age as me.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and we're petrified, right? And from there, we come up and then the next heat I'm up against the Brazilian hero, Corley Rodriguez. And then this guy comes up, I'm going to kill you, gringo. So it's gone from ecstasy to like the devil's after me, right?
Wow.
And I'm just going, oh my God, I was so scared. I just thought if I walk down, they might shoot me on my way down the beach. I've gone out of totally, had a big heat with Corley, beaten Corley. And then the next thing I was up against PT and we had a really close heat. It was pretty close. I had a pretty good tube in the heat that basically won it for me. And then that was my first win, and I've still got the trophy at home. It's like everyone talks about the trophy, how I had to get another seat on the plane to carry the trophy because it was so big.
Wow. What was the party like to celebrate your victory over there?
I can't remember that one, but I won that on my 18th birthday. It just coincided with my birthday.
Okay.
So I had my 18th birthday and I won it in there. And I think pretty much I can't remember too much of the party. I don't think there was much of a party for that. Just a basic disco celebration sort of thing. But my 21st, I won my 21st there. I beat MR in the semi-finals. Now, beat MR in the semi-finals because it was all Brazilian judges. So I went on and I won that. And this guy comes up to me on the beach and he says, hey, Cheyne, we'll meet you back at this bar, right? And I go, oh, yeah, okay. I got salt all over me, sunscreen all over me. And this guy says, I'll take your boards back to the hotel, right? So some guys takes all our boards. I was with Terry Stevens. You know Terry Stevens?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so I'm with Terry and we're great mates. He's from California, right? And he had a heat where they wanted to kill him because he hassled the guy and he was in hiding in my room.
Wow.
And no one knew where he was because every time they checked his room, he wasn't there. He said they just want to kill me, so he stayed with me. So anyway, we go to this bar and we're sitting there and we're having beers, just won the contest. And all of a sudden, these people start coming in tuxedos. And the guy still hasn't turned up who told us to go there. There's Terry, me, and two beautiful girls, right? We were just having a great time, great conversation. And then all of a sudden, more people are coming in with tuxedos. We're sitting around a table just like we've got here, which is just a pew with, 4 of us sitting in a bar, an empty bar that's now started to fill up. So anyway, as the night goes on, it just fills up with people in tuxedos. We're still sitting there. By this time, we're royally drunk, right? And these dancers come out and they start dancing all the dances from Carnival,
Okay, samba style.
summer style, all the dresses that they wore from like 68 to 1981.
Wow.
Every dress, every dance. And we're sitting there going, how good's this show, right? Drinking, like we're not even paying for drinks at this stage. We're thinking, oh, these guys have probably turned us on because I've won the contest. The guys probably said, oh, I just think. So as the whole night finishes and the guy comes up and we've got this massive bill for drink, massive bill for thing, and we've got no money on us at all. Like my money's back in the hotel room. And I said, oh, look, I'll give you my watch. And he goes, no, you got to pay the cash. All right? And you know how volatile Brazil can be, right? So now we're on the volatile side, like we're thinking, oh, well, you know, this guy could have a gun or whatever, you know, beat us up because we don't have the money.
Right.
And I'm trying to come up with excuses to get us out of this thing. And I say, hey, mate, just take me down back to the hotel and I've got money at the hotel. And he goes, okay, I'll take you back to the hotel in his broken Brazilian language. Right. So we go back to the hotel, I pay, and that was just the most amazing party that I've ever had in Brazil.
Wow, so great. So that was when you were 21. So when you were 21 is around the time that I first saw you surf, and it would have been, well, I saw you surf actually at the US Pro at Malibu in 1980, and you had the board with the pink and blue turquoise. Yes, the fangs. And I remember that so well. And at the time I rode McCoy's. I got my first kind of sponsor. My brother and I got sponsored by McCoy, and I rode a Lazor Zap, actually, shaped by Jeff McCoy for a long time. So I want to get into all that. But where I want to start with this is the 1982 OP Pro, which was one of the first big contests on the tour at Huntington Beach, on the world tour, I should say. And you were on fire, and you did a backside 360 it was the quarter of the semi.
Final.
It was the final itself. Okay. And it was such a big move. And I remember the beach erupting on that one.
One of the biggest moments of my life.
So let's go through it.
Well, it was just amazing. Like in the summer, we're in Newport Beach, which is California summer, which is one of the most amazing times anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Living as a young kid on the beach, living in Newport with Danny Kwok and Preston Murray and a couple of other guys that were there, and I think Matt Marshall. Anyway, we were living in Newport, and we're just having the best time. And we're going down surfing the jetties, and Ali Kai could do backside 360s. This is before the tour, right? Before we went. From there, I went off to South Africa and Brazil and stuff. So we're surfing the summer as the summer's starting together. And I've got my base there at Danny's house, right? So anyway, we're going down to the beach, and we're Ali Kai could do backside 360s at the drop of a hat.
Ali Kai, what was Ali Kai's last name?
Kenny Maka.
Okay.
Titus's
sure.
younger brother.
Yes.
Great mate of mine.
Yeah.
So Ali Kai, he was he could do them at a drop of a hat because he was riding a twin fin. Single fins were hard to do 360s on, a lot harder than his twin fins. They just spin and slide, and you've done it.
Yeah.
And anyway, he's doing it. I'm practicing all summer. I'm getting it was probably like about a 50% success rate, which is not enough to do in a contest. You just don't do it, right? You got to be up. You got to be doing things in contests. You're not taking big, giant risks and trying to do a maneuver you've never done. You do those in your practice sessions and you bring them into contests. So anyway, I'm in the final with Sean. The crowd's just going ballistic. There's 50,000 people there. It's the first big US contest.
Huge. They had grandstand bleachers everywhere.
Biggest contest in the history of surfing to that point.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember the aerial shots of it, and the pier was full of people on the beach. I mean, it was so wall-to-wall people.
Amazing. And everyone was just I had a massive following because, I love California and people know that, and they were there. I had so many friends that were there. And anyway, so I paddle out with Sean, and I'm going okay. And I've got Preston Murray. He's calling the waves for me off the pier.
Okay.
And he couldn't have anyone better in your corner than Preston. He was telling me, move here, move there. It's coming over to the point. And I just felt like he was just moving me around, and I just had to really just catch the wave and go with the flow, right? So anyway, this wave comes, and it's going to close out, and it's just not set up for a backside 360. And Preston reckons, he goes, oh, no. He could see me setting it up, same as they do for aerials they do.
Yes.
Now you kind of
riding
set it.
high.
Yeah, you ride high, you start to set it, and you're starting to set it.
Yep.
He goes, oh, no way, because he knew my success rate, and there's no way I'm going to make it, right? And so I'm going across, and I still remember it. I just went up to hit it, and I didn't quite get it right, and I'm only halfway around in the lip. Right, where you want to be around before you start coming down, and the lip pitches me out. I'm crouching in the lip going, I'm gone here, right? And it pitches me out. I'm still so parallel to the beach. Then my nose started to come around in the lip, and I'm pointing to the beach, and I just crouch, and I free fall down the face, and I land on the bottom. It pushes me in the back, and I squeeze out of it, and the crowd just went, I could hear the crowd in Australia.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was the biggest roar I've ever heard in surfing.
Yeah.
The whole crowd just went ballistic. And then when I came in, it was just like, I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it.
Yeah. No, it was, now that we use the term Hail Mary, but it was a Hail Mary before we even called it that. But no, it was such a huge move.
Huge. And that was the first time a backside 360 had ever been done in a pro contest. That was it right there.
Wow. You were, at that time, your popularity was just soaring in the surf world, and you had these very distinct looking boards, the McCoys, great airsprays. You had beautiful rip curl wetsuits with lots of bright colors. You had this sort of peroxide blonde hair. You had this great kind of attacking style. You were a surfing superstar. What was that like, and what did it feel like to have all the eyeballs on you?
Well, like I come from really humble beginnings, right? And I look back, I look back on those times now, and I didn't even realize that was happening. I was so into just going surfing with friends. I wasn't aware of any sort of superstar or anything like that. I was just, I was aware of people knowing who I was here and there. I was aware of people, sometimes you're out and they're staring at you, but it wasn't hitting home like I'm a rock star or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just living life just daily. That's how it was.
Incredible. You were on my bedroom walls. I rode boards with the same airspray that you had on the McCoys. I rode the McCoys because you rode the McCoys, and I wore the Rip Curl wetsuits as well.
Did you feel like it?
I was called a Shane clone, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And then at one point,
Were you morphing me?
I think I was.
You were.
So here's a really important thing during that period. You rode equipment that kind of went against the grain of what everyone else was doing. There were a lot of twin fins, and then came the thruster, and you kind of staunchly stayed with the single fin.
Yeah. It could have been, like, when you say it like that, it could have been a mistake. I think I always tell guys now, look, if you're surfing in a contest, just surf what everybody else is surfing and beat them being a better surfer. That's what I believe now. But there wasn't any pathways now. You couldn't look back and say, hey, this was all new pathways. And I always thought the single fin was better than the twin fin because you always had water on the fin. Where twin fins, you hit one fin, you slide sideways and you hit the other fin.
Yes.
Right? So I like the surety of fins. I like riding twin fins. I like that slide, But at the time, I wanted the single fin. Now, you'd say that we went against the grain of things. We were looking to try and get an edge.
Yeah.
Always. Whether the edge be in the outline, whether the edge be with one flyer, two flyers, three flyers, widths, and then one of the biggest stages was everybody had the wide nose. And I wanted to drive like a Formula One racing car. So we wanted to stay in one place. And when you have with surfboards, you're always stepping up to where the area is. Wherever the area is on your board or the curve that's made for standing and going fast, you stand on that place, right? Wherever that is. And so everybody was, because of the old days, guys would sort of do a bottom turn and go up and hang five on the nose.
Yes.
That was the style.
Yep, and the wide points were further up
accordingly. Everything was supporting that.
Yes.
So I didn't want to surf like that. I grew up, when I started surfing, I started on small boards. And I think as far as the Pro Tour goes, I think I was the first guy or one of them, that was the first guy to start on small boards. All the guys in front of me, all the older guys, they were all started with a long board and had to do a change to a short board, whereas I started on small boards.
Yep.
So I had this whole different vision, approach. It was completely different to the older guys. They were used to, you got to bottom turn and go up and hang 5.
Yeah.
Right? I was a skateboarding surfer. I just wanted to go up and grind the lip, right? Just go across, and I wanted to fly out of the top, and I wanted that much speed going down the face that I could fly up the face. So it was just like approaching a wave like I was skateboarding.
Yes. Yeah, and just for the listener who doesn't know what a Lazor Zap looks like, very like a needle nose, wide tail, wide point below.
But it
center.
wasn't wide tail at that point.
No?
Not at that point.
Okay.
Not when we did this in like 1979, 1980.
Okay.
It started in 79.
Maybe.
The end of 1979, which was like we only just made the tail wider. Like that's all we did at the start. With that whole other area where we started to go wide in the tail was a whole nother evolution.
I see. The one I think of is just the real teardrop shape. And they were real, there were a lot of pictures of you in the mags, partly because the airsprays were so damn incredible, but also because the boards were just so unique looking.
Yes.
Reading the Encyclopedia of Surfing, you are credited as one of the first people to do floaters. Did floaters come out of that period?
Yeah, well, the floater is when I was 13 years old, we used to have a couple of sections at Bronte. There was one that was called the Suck Up, right, which was a ledge that was sort of like Chopu, but it was only 2 foot.
Right off the pool there on the south end?
When you're coming off the pool, not the first part was Bunny Bay, which was like a free fall drop.
Yeah.
Then you come along and then you drop into the Suck Up, which was a ledge of rock that just was thick. It was as thick as it was, thicker than it was high all the time. So that was one section you come into, so you could float across that on the roof of that because it was so thick. And then come in, and then you come on the inside. There was this rock called the Orphan, and I'd throw it up and I'd float over the Orphan. Otherwise, you'd either go inside or outside. I used to just float over it, right? Because everyone used to go around it, right? And because I lived there, I watched that wave every day of my life. When I opened my eyes every day, I was living in a place that was right on the beach. The first thing I saw, I had this window just flapped open. The first thing I saw when I woke up in the morning was Bronte Reef.
Wow.
They were the first things I saw when I woke up as a kid.
Fabulous.
For years and years and years. And so anyway, the floater, I used to do that. And then I started doing it on the roof and all this. So this is when I was 13. So I go in contests and I was winning all these contests. Didn't even know I was doing the floater. Everyone was going up doing re-entries, snaps in the pocket, bottom turns. That's what we were getting scored on.
Yeah.
But I was doing these I was just surfing.
Yeah.
Right? You're a 14-year-old kid. You're trying yourself out in competitions. You just go out there and surf and hope you do well.
Yeah.
No strategies. Just catch whatever wave comes and go for it.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I was about 18, Bobby Owens comes up to me. I'm on the world tour. And he goes, "Are you in control when you're doing that?" Right? This is like 5 years later. Like I didn't even know that other guys weren't even doing it, right? This is when I started to go, oh, hang on a minute. I'm starting to do manoeuvres that these guys don't even know.
Yeah.
So Bobby's going, "Are you in control when you're doing that?" And I said, "Yeah, it was a floater."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it didn't even have a name.
Yeah.
Right? It was just, he goes, it was that.
Right.
For Bobby, it was that.
Yeah.
You know? And then I heard Critter told me this years later, like when we were in Bali, he goes, "Hey, Shane, I remember sitting down with Tom Carroll one day and we were in the hills at Narrabeen and we're watching you and going, how do you do that?" Right? It was just all this new surfing that we just were looking at each other going, wow, how do you do that? Right? So he told me that way later. So look, I think I did create the floater. Guy, I'm not saying I'm the first to do it. There would have been guys doing it, but not consciously.
Yeah.
You know, they probably hit it, in the 60s, they probably hit it with a longboard and went bang.
Yeah.
But consciously actually going up and floating over huge long sections and dropping in, that's why I reckon I created that.
Yeah. So 1978, 79, 81, 82, you come second all those years. I saw you as a surfing superstar, but having competed myself, what would it feel like to kind of get so close, but not quite get it?
Well, why do you think that happened?
Don't know. I was too young. I wasn't able to follow close enough at that time.
All right. In all those years, it was like the first year that Rabbit beat me, I think he fairly beat me. I did cop a couple of results where I thought I could have got through, but I see the mistakes I made along the way that year, and I think Rabbit got it. He just was super consistent, and he was focused on it, right? The next year when I surfed against MR, I thought there was a lot of results. Like I beat MR a lot more than he beat me, all right? I've got the wood on Tom Curran, Tom Carroll, and Mark Richards, and Rabbit, and Sean. Got the wood on all those guys. So anyway, in 79, there was a lot of results I thought were unfair. And there was one where, the last result was I was going against PT. Now, everybody talks about this heat with PT, how he hustled me. I'd already had a couple of good waves in that heat. And then I got away from him like on the 18-minute mark. They were 20-minute heats. So I got away from him on the 18-minute mark. As I'm paddling into the wave, the hooter blows before I get to stand up. I get in on the beach. I rode the wave all the way across the bowl and actually get right all the way nearly to the beach on it, all right? Get in on the beach and the press come up to me and I've got my watch and I'm going, look, here's the time for the heat. There's still a minute and a half left in the heat. They've stopped the heat early. Had it right there and they're filming it. So I realised that at the time that they'd ripped me off, right? All I had to do was make the final to win the title. They gave it to MR. So then in 1980, I had a shocking year because I just was flipped out from losing the title, and that's when we made the no-noses, and I thought I was just going to kill it, but I just couldn't get waves in my heats, and guys were waxing me. Then in 1981, I started to get it back together, and then I was doing really well. Again, I got called an interference. I got called an interference against Cole Smith from Newcastle in the first round. If you lose in the first round, second round in going for a title, you're pretty much waxed. And everybody knew it. You had to make quarterfinals, semifinals, final to do it, all right? So Cole Smith, I'm paddling over a wave with Cole Smith, right? And because we paddled over it, they called a paddling interference on me. It was the first one ever in the history that they called a paddling interference for paddling over a wave. And that cost me, right? And I lost that heat. And I won the heat. As far as the surfing in the heat, I'd won that heat, right? So there was all these sort of devastating results that were going down. So 1981, 1982, I won all these won 3 events, right? Won the Stubbies, the Straight Talk, and the US Open, right? And did really well in all the rest, right? But had about 5 results that were 3-2s against me, where I thought I'd won the heats, waxed them, right? Lots of them. Had that not been on, I would have probably won 3 world titles. But look, the other side of it all is life has a journey that that's the way life pans out. Yep. So it's the way it went. So you've got to go with that.
Absolutely.
Like, that's been my learning experience. That's made me the person I am. It's part of my makeup.
Yes.
It's made me strong today.
Yeah.
It's made me look at things differently.
Yes.
So it's a great learning curve.
Well, what's really interesting, Cheyne, is, and I think about this, is at the, I had a very modest career, but I was on the tour for 5 years. We traveled a bunch together. And I think about it, and I wanted so badly to make the top 30 and then make the top 16. And I never did. And now I remember when I sort of first fell off the tour, Al Merrick said this incredible thing to me and he was kind of a mentor and he looked after me a lot. And I was in the shaping room with him in Santa Barbara. And I said, Al, I'm going to be off the tour. My sponsors and ships ended. And I've got to go, figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And he goes, well, if it's any consolation, basically, he was saying, The higher you go, the harder you fall. And in many ways, I'm sure you and I could probably talk for hours about this. There's a curse of the surfers who got really inflated and their entire identities were built on their surfing. Sometimes didn't fare as well 10 years down the track. You know, there was a humbling, as Rabbit loves to call it, going back to civilian life. It's such a great way of putting it. Yeah. So I love hearing you say that it's your journey, and this is, you know, it's sort of this this thing we work with. Thinking about the time when I got on tour, which was 1986, was my first proper year. You were there. You were a macrobiotic vegetarian. You were doing yoga. You were into astrology. You carried the I Ching and you tossed the coins. You were very unique. There was a lot of conformity in the pro surfing ranks. You were definitely like the black sheep.
100%. I was the mystic on tour when all the other guys were all the drunks and getting into everything else.
Yeah, you didn't go near the piss at that time.
Yeah, I wasn't drinking.
Yeah,
I was drinking. I was drinking carrot juice and herb teas, and I was purifying myself at any chance I could.
Yeah. How did you find all that?
Well, it kind of goes back to when I was a kid. You know, I used to see guys at the beach from surfers, and I used to see them being healthy and eating healthy.
Yeah.
And so I liked that I could see that, you know, vegetarians were free thinkers.
Yeah.
They were free. And so, yeah, so I got into it that way. I had friends along the way that all sort of were going that way. I remember Critter and I, when we were in Hawaii, I think it was like 1978 or 79, and we had our first brown rice with seaweed. And when I ate that seaweed, mate, it was like eating sand. It was like, oh, this is horrible, right? But now we have sushi and all that. We didn't have sushi in that.
Yeah.
When I first got home from Japan, and I said to my mum, I said, hey, Mum, I was in Japan, and they talk about how you have, if you eat this, it's good for your eyes. You eat that's good for your hair. This is good for your heart. This is good for, you know, everything. So every bit of food they eat, they know why they're eating it.
Yes.
My mum goes, oh, that's bullshit, right? But at that time in society, people were used to Coca-Cola and this, and there was no understanding that you could eat food for different organs or ailments or anything. It was all, you know, medicine and drugs and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. No, I really, I got to know you around that time. There were times when, you know, a group of us would all be traveling, and you were tuned in all these things that none of the other pros were interested in. And I distinctly remember being in Tokyo, and you went to see a martial arts master of some kind.
Ki Aikido.
Yeah. I remember going to have dinner with you, and you lived with Carrie and Brad in Whale Beach, and we had this great vegetarian dinner. And Paul, exactly. Yeah. And so you lived with a group of guys. One or some of them were gay.
Yeah, Carrie and Paul were gay.
Yeah. And among the pro surfing dudes, our troglodyte mates, that was like, oh, well, maybe Shane's gay. And I always loved this story, which was that year you won the surfer pole somewhere, and you went up to accept your award, and the rumor was that Shane's gay, and you went up and you said, there have been a lot of rumors spread about me. Some of them are true, and some of them are not. And you walked off.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah,
do I have that right?
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you didn't dignify the whole thing, which is great.
With that, because of all those rumors and stuff, look, I've grown up in Bondi, where it's a very liberal place.
Yeah, and I
Bondi,
grew up in LA, and it's the same.
Yeah, it's liberal. And, you know, I had a lot of mates that were persecuted at school because they were gay, and I wasn't going to jump on the bandwagon and persecute people because of their sexuality.
Yep.
Either way, right? And I wasn't going to jump on that thing, but I got persecuted for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I just let people. If you know, a good mate of mine said they said to mate, oh yeah, Shane's gay, and my mate just said to him, mate, you don't know him.
Yeah. So, you know, Shane, watching you closely for many, many years, watching you ride designs that there was the Lazor Zaps, there was the wing keel, a lot of the boards that, you know, there were a lot of people saying, oh, if Shane would only just jump on a thruster, he would win the world title, what have you, all that stuff. I fondly remember 1989 Billabong Pro, Sunset Beach, $50,000 for first prize, the most money ever given as a first prize at that time. Sunset was just beautiful. And I knew, having ridden the boards from Jeff McCoy and Greg Pouch at that time, I knew that they were about riding in the pocket. And I remember watching that final at Sunset. And to my mind, it was like everything you've always done came together in that final. And you were surfing Sunset just absolutely perfectly and turning under the lip and getting barreled as you came down, like snapping off the top and getting barreled as you came out of it. And it was such advanced surfing, and you won the 50K. And that was a big victory. What was that like for you?
That was amazing. What had happened is I was in the Pipe Masters the week before, right? And I'd been winning all my heats, and I was on the Glenmanami boards, and they were thrusters, right? And I had a grade 8-footer, 7.7, and a 7.7-footer. And I was surfing the pipe, and pipe was out of control, but then it just started to get real nice. It got really good and started to die. But every heat I won my heat, and then got into the final, couldn't get a wave, ended up finishing third. And at the start of the season, if I got 2 victories in the 2 contests, I was going to make it. I was going to be the first guy to make a comeback out of the 16 back into the 16, because it was the top 16 were on tour. The rest are in the trials.
Yep.
And I'd been in the trials that year before that, right? So I'm in the so I finished third in the pipe, and then I'm driving along the road at the back of Sunset, and I see Graham Stapleberg, and I'm with
He was the
Brad.
head judge of the ASP.
I was with Brad, right?
Okay.
And Brad says you can still because I finished third. I thought I can't do it. I thought I had to finish first in the 2 of them, right? And I thought no, I've blown it. I can't do it, right? And I was a bit sad and at it. And I'm driving along the back road at Sunset, just along that back lane.
Yeah.
And I see Graham Stapleberg, and Brad goes, ask Graham. And I said, hey, Graham, what's the points for the 5-star Billabong? And he goes, it was like a double points or something like that. It was just enough to get through by about 100 or 150 points if a couple of guys lost along the way.
Okay.
Right? I think it was like Sonny Garcia, somebody else, and someone else had to lose, right? So I'm on. I got a chance here. So New Year's Eve comes. It's like, because there was no waves, so New Year's Eve comes, and they've thrown around all these vodka strips, and I had one vodka drink because I just didn't want to get wasted on New Year's Eve. Everyone's getting wasted, like the whole tour's on this party, and we're all having fun. And anyway, the next day or two days later, the contest is on at Sunset. And anyway, like you said, it was just like there wasn't a drop out of water.
Yeah.
A drop out of water, you like that?
Drop out of place, yeah.
Drop out of water. So just picking myself up here, catching my own fucking idiosyncrasies. So anyway, it was just the perfect day. And he's surfing against Tom Carroll in one heat. It was the year before his world champ. There's, then coming up against Mike Latronic, who was amazing. And I think my quarterfinal was somebody that was, every heat was a heat. There wasn't one easy heat. The final was Ross Gyke Jones, who'd been waxing everyone and was great in Hawaii, right? Ended up winning the Eddie years later. Yeah. So Ross was on fire. And then just, won it. And then, so after the contest, right, there was Bush and Saddam Hussein, right, or whatever his name is, right? They were in battle, right? So I decided I'm going to have a party for everyone, spend some money from the contest, and I put peace. So I put this party on about 2 days later up on Pupukea Hill at my mate's house, and I put peace signs all the way from Sunset to the party, and all the way from Waimea to the party, right? All peace signs everywhere, and I called it Saddam Insane and the Bushwhackers Party.
Very, very good.
And I had the North Shore Surf Band come there, and that was the celebration.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, that reminds me, during the time of apartheid in South Africa, I remember seeing you on the beach at the Gunston 500 in Durban, where there was a division with black and white beaches, and you had Free Mandela written on the bottom of your board.
Yeah.
You're always very, you spoke out. You were an activist at that time.
Yeah. I I don't know how I got. I think I was just from going to South Africa all the time and finding out about Mandela and him being the black leader, and then the white leader looked after the whites, and how the whites had just put him in jail, right? I just thought that was so wrong. And then for being in there for like 26 years or something, 25 years when I first sort of heard about it, and I thought, I'm going to try and do something about it. And I put Free Mandela on my board, and I'm surfing around in South Africa, and I'm staying with Hilton Wade, an old mate of mine from South Africa, in Cape Town. And anyway, I come home this one day after surfing, and Hilton says, he's been getting all these phone calls from his mates, and they're saying, look, you can't keep surfing around town with that on his board, right? And I said, hey, Hilton, if you're getting heat, I'll go and stay in a hotel. He said, no, I don't want you to go and stay in a hotel. I said, well, I'm going to be surfing with Free Mandela on my board. And he goes, oh, yeah, no worries. So he was half sort of backing me. He was backing me anyway because he was liberal. Yeah. So I get a ding in my board. I knock the nose off, and I called Jonathan Parman in Cape Town, and I said, can you get my board fixed? He goes, yeah, I'll fix it. So he takes the board down to the factory, and then he brings it back the next day, done, nose fixed. And I said, oh, yeah, how much is that? And he goes, oh, they did it for the black guys there, right? He goes, they did it for free. They were stoked because they saw the board with Free Mandela on it.
Right, because the surfboard factories in South Africa, a lot of them were staffed by
They were
black.
all black.
Yeah.
All the boards glassed and all that.
that.
They were only shaped by whites.
Yeah. No, that was an intense time to be there. And the thing that I remember, I met a lot of people who were seemingly lovely white dudes, but as soon as the controversy of apartheid came up, there was heavy duty racism.
After I got that and surfed there, I was threatened. I had guys that wanted AK-48s. Like Mike Thompson said, mate, you watch yourself. There's a guy with a gun looking for you. Wow. Right? And I went, whoa, that's heavy. So I was really sort of sliding around. I wasn't making myself like open in the streets wearing hoodies and going off and getting my dinners and stuff like that. I was really low key. And then like 2 or 3 years later, Mandela got released.
I remember.
And I remember when he got released, the day he got released, I'm partying. I was in Bondi Junction. I'm at my brother. My brother used to have this disco at Bondi Junction. And I'm partying, and the guy's going, well, how come you're having such a good time? And I said, they released Mandela today. And they go, who's Mandela?
Wow. Incredible. Amazing. Going back to that, well, let me ask you this question. What was the greatest moment you had on the tour as a competitor?
That OP backside 360.
Yep.
Definitely up there. Could be one of the greatest moments. Winning the Billabong and making it back into the top 16 for the first. That was some of those tube rides in that final or in that whole event were just next level. Just feeling that groove, that oneness.
Yep. Your victory in the Billabong Pro, winning the $50,000, was right around the time that I sort of discovered weed and psychedelics. And sitting on the beach, watching you, I was sure that Cheyne has to be on something because he's in tune with the ocean. You weren't. Okay. Okay. But around that time you did.
Sometimes I did. I surfed in contests, Yeah. Like for me, it's like acid and mushrooms. They're sacraments. They're lessons to give you, it's things that God's going to give you. It's not, I want this. That's your ego. I always had it with like, you please just, teach me what I need teaching, like what I need to learn, or open the doors that need to be opened. That was how I have my sacraments, which I call sacraments.
Yeah, yeah. And then so after winning that 1989 Billabong Pro at Sunset, that brought us into the 90s. And I know in the 90s you spent a lot of time riding big waves. You were in the eddy, you surfed outer log cabins, you started towing in, surfed jaws. You had a sort of whole other career on the outer reef, so to speak, or in big waves.
Yeah. Well, I started living in Hawaii from 1986 for the winters, and I just loved surfing giant surf. It was the peak of surfing for me. It was as far as you can go. There's no further. And in those, you can go as far as you like in there. You can get as deep and as radical and as gnarly as you like. In giant surf, I nearly died 4 times. I should be dead, 100% dead. And getting into like the paddle surfing, and I used to go around the North Shore, and I'd go out at Laniakea where guys are surfing Waimea at 20, 25 feet, and I'd go out Laniakea by myself with the Willis brothers, or, we were all on the same sort of level. So many times I'd be at a spot and Mark Fu would turn up and go, "Are you going out there?" And I'd go, "Yeah." And he'd go, "Man, I'm going down to Waimea." Because Waimea was easy, right? I'd go out at the back of Sunset at 20, 25 feet, back of Laniakea, the back of Himalayas, the back of Phantoms, I was just going, I was on a quest that I didn't even know I was on.
What was the thrill? What psyched you the most?
I really don't know. I just think the rush from big wave surfing is one that there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's the most purest, highest high of adrenaline that you can get.
Yep.
It's not like an acid high or it's this high.
Yeah.
And the only way, and everybody's felt it in surfing. Like guys go, "Oh yeah, what about that?" Like you can only get it surfing Jaws or whatever. And it's really in the wipeouts that you actually feel this adrenaline pump.
Yeah.
Riding waves, it's a certain adrenaline pump, but when you eat it, it takes it to the 10 times that level.
Yeah.
And everyone who, even if you surf your home beach break and you're a kid and you're going from 3 to 5 foot, and you wipe out, that's the same wipeout.
Right. It's like whatever your threshold is.
It is. Yeah. And we all feel it. And that's the great thing about surfing is we have those rushes and those beautiful things about going surfing.
Yep. When you say you nearly died 4 times, can you tell us about the worst of them?
So I'm out at Phantoms, and sunset in the morning was flat, not even 1 foot. At 11 o'clock, it was 10 foot. At 1 o'clock, it was what they call 60, 70 feet today. It was massive, right? And we got out there for it. And I had caught a wave, like there was Garrett McNamara, Ross, a couple other guys were out, right? And I'd caught my wave, and the first real giant set, or probably the peak of the set, came through at that time, and it was massive. And I'm last in line, and they go over it, and then they go over it, and they go over it. And I just I think I was with Milton or Michael Willis, and you just do this thing where you point down, and that means I want this one.
I see.
Right? So he turns and goes this wave, and it is just massive. And as I'm dropping down the face of it, there's this big chunk like a boulder sticking out of it. And as I'm coming down, I'm thinking, I can go inside it or I can go around it. And as I've thought that, I've hit it. And I've fallen on the face.
Wow.
And I've just clawed in, and everything just went quiet and still. And then all of a sudden, just all hell broke loose. I was getting ragdolled like King Kong had me in his hand, thrashing me around. And then I'm down into the deep of it, and I'm in the black. And I'd learned at an early age to start swimming when you count your things. And I'm up around 30, and I'm still not at the top. And anyway, I just get to the top, right? And there's another wave there, and it's like from here to the door, which is like 8 feet away. And inside my head goes, dive with no air or keep up and just get mowed in, right? So I dive with absolutely no. When you come up out of a wipeout, you're going,
you need that gulp.
Right, I've come up and gone, and I've gone with that bit of air.
Wow.
One small little bit of air, and I've just gone underneath, and I'm swimming under, and it sort of thrashes me a little bit, not as much as if I stayed up, because I'm diving under with the little room I have, and swimming under, and then that washes me in, and then I pop up again, and there's another one same distance away. I've had this is the second one. So I've had 2 wipeout, that's 2 waves. Now the third wave, I pop up and it's right there again. Same thing in my head. Dive with no air. Now I've had 2 with no air, and I'm going again with no air, and I've got to go under. Just my thing was, no matter what your mind says, just never breathe underwater until you get to the top. No matter what your mind says to you. That was a pact I had with myself. So I was swimming under, And as I'm swimming under, I'm looking at the wave coming towards me, and it's like 20 feet down, 100 feet across, just white water like an avalanche coming towards me. And I looked at it and I went, I'm going to die right here. I could tell I had no air. And my body had gone limp. I could hardly move my arms under there. Then there was, when in waves, if you ever look at waves underneath the water, you see it's sort of like clouds moving, but there's some parts that don't have anything.
Yep.
And I saw this little sort of an area like a cone, and it wasn't getting hit. And I just swam over into it and sat in it, and I just kind of rocked inside there a little bit, and then came up to the top. And Milton Willis was right there, and he grabs me and pulls me up on the back of the ski, and my body, bringing itself back to life by itself, was going like that for over a minute.
Wow.
I've never had that happen. I've never heard of that happening.
It was like
my
beyond
body
you.
was bringing me back to life. I was dead.
Jeez.
My body had already gone numb.
Wow.
And I'd got above the thing. And Garrett McNamara reckons he saw me popping up and down inside, and he goes, and he said it to me, he goes, I looked in, I thought, how did he survive that? And that's what happened.
Jeez. Wow. I think the perfect segue now is psychedelics. You got any good stories from tripping?
I'll take you on my last good trip. I'm 63 years old now, so I'm in the trip, all right, and I'm just laying down breathing. And while I'm breathing, as you sort of have these sort of negative thoughts or thoughts that were sort of sticking to you, your breath would get short. And then when you're getting this flow going, you got this nice flow of the breath, and the eyes are closed and just nice and relaxed. And then I can see all the psychedelics. I'm looking through my third eye, and I can see all the psychedelics like inside a kaleidoscope. Everybody's seen them on television. So that's all going on inside my head. And the thoughts are coming and going. And then all of a sudden I have this flash of how I've been getting ready to die. Like I've been telling people, I've been preparing everyone around me that I'm going to die, right? And it's going to be soon. And I've been saying to my kids, if I die, this and all these thoughts are coming in. My wife and my friends, I was saying, look, on the eulogy, you should say this is a joke, So I've been preparing everybody that I'm going to die. And I said to myself, and this is deep inside my subconscious, right? And I'm thinking, I'm preparing myself to die. I should just, and then I went, no, even if I am going to die, I'm going to turn it around. And I know I've had all these great experiences in my life. I'm going to have even better ones. I'm going to go on and just start living life like it's going to get better. Wow. Not like it's dying and I'm So then I started having this experience about where I saw my son, and I started having all these tears coming out of my eyes for all this love that I have for both my kids, my daughter, and I was having all these tears, and I'm in this setting with like 6 other people that I don't even know. We've all come there to trip out, right? I know I'm going, oh, and I'm actually not breathing properly, and people can hear me crying. But my friend said to me, he was sort of helping with the people. He said, mate, the guy next to you was hanging on like he was hanging onto the floor like he was hanging off a building. So, mate, don't worry about what was happening in your trip.
Wow.
Right? But it was just a great trip. So my answer to all that is for people, if you're going to go that route, you need to clean yourself up in as far as not drinking for a few days, tidy your house up, eat as clean as you can, definitely go down the vegetarian path for a few days, microdose for a little while. It's not true. I'm not saying for everybody the tripping is going to be good for you, but it can heal you. And this turned my life around. Like I was on my way that way. Now I feel like I've turned things around. And it's a good thing to sort of mirror for you to see. It makes you confront who you are and see who you are. Yeah. And you can either be happy with it or change it, and go with it. Yeah. So take it as a sacrament from God. This is a journey for you. It's not it's not someone else's trip. It's your trip. Yeah. And find yourself.
Yeah. No, I like that, Cheyne. Thanks so much.
Aloha, everyone.
Soundings is brought to you by the Surfers Journal and is produced by me, Jamie Brisick, and Jonathan Shiflett. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Our theme song is Give Me a Wave by Oscar Matsumiya and Paz Lenchantin. The Surfers Journal is a reader-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Outerknown, Patagonia, Rainbow Sandals, Vans, and Yeti. The journal is published bi-monthly. If you haven't done so yet, I encourage you to visit surfersjournal.com and subscribe. This episode of Soundings is presented by Costa Sunglasses, the badge of the explorer. For over 40 years and counting, Costa has remained steadfast in their dedication to not only crafting the most durable, functional, and long-lasting eyewear, but in protecting our waterways and natural resources. Whether you're on the back deck scanning for yellowtail, eyeing a set swinging wide at an empty point, camped out on a bluff at the end of a rotted two-track, or anywhere and everywhere in between, Costas are built to help you see what's out there. Head over to costadelmar.com today to find just the right pair for you, no matter where the water takes you. Thank you for listening to Soundings, and until next time.